Hello, everybody out there. Welcome to 2021. Stocks are down. The Senate's in the air. Dan flew through the air 100 some yards off his snowmobile. That is my canned intro line for today. We got a great episode of Coach's Playbook. We're going to talk about, since it's the start of the new year, some of the best free or free resources to help you get started trading. We have a lot of people who ask us, I'm just getting started. What can I do that's going to help me learn how to trade futures or Forex? And we just thought it'd be a good place to put it. And I think a lot of these resources are stuff that even people who've been doing this for a while can still find worthwhile. But first, I just used wild twice. That was a stupid way to say things. Anyway,
wild.
Yeah, man, off 2 weeks, I feel like my whole command of English is melting down, along with my inability to measure my body temperature. It's cold here. Anyway, let's heat it up with an oil trade. Mick, I hear you have a good trader shout out today.
I sure do. Big shout out to Paula Wyman. She's up a little over, she's up over $10,000 today trading natural gas and crude oil.
Wow.
This is following a $7,000 winning day yesterday trading natural gas and crude oil. 2 trades yesterday, 2 trades today. She played the markets like a fiddle.
That's
so
amazing.
Big shout out to her. That's a $17,000 jump in 2 days, the first 2 business days of the year. So 2021 is off to a fantastic start for our funded accounts.
And
love it when a plan comes together.
Especially when she does it on 2 trades. It's just, that's the way to do it. Take the 2
Oh,
best.
patience right there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since we talked a little bit beforehand, Mick, do you want to kick us off? Because you kind of have perhaps the greatest foundational resource for those interested in futures. And then if you're a Forex trader, Dan's going to go next and talk about some Forex stuff. But Mick, you want to tee things off here?
Yes, please. And thank you, Jack. So as far as educational resources to learn about the futures products, the exchanges, and anything you need to know, go to the source, the CME Group's website, cmegroup.com. They have...
It is in the chat. I just dropped it in the chat for everyone.
Thank you, Dan. They have so much educational information. Number one, they have all the contract specifications for any product offered on that exchange. You can find out tick values, many other different things, what the contract sizing is. So any product that you could trade that's on the CME exchange, they have all the background information on those products. This is something that if you are trading any of these products, you should definitely be in tune with, the ins and outs of your products. They're all a little bit different. As far as the educational stuff goes, there's an educational link on their homepage. I highly recommend looking at this. There is so much information on there from, it gives you basically the foundation, the bottom up approach. You get all the background information on why futures exchanges are there. Who are the participants? What is the role of the exchange? What is the role of these participants? They have short little videos. We all like short videos, nothing too long. Short, simple, easy to follow videos. They even have some little short courses that you can take on there too. So if you're looking to get into trading, before you start thinking about strategies and how you can make money in these markets, you need to understand these markets first. And very few places do it better than the CME to get you, in touch with what's going on in the marketplace and what to be thinking about.
Right. And they have different levels, I believe, too, because I traded futures professionally for 7 years, took a few years off before I came to Top Step. And when I started again, I went to the CME. That was my first thing, to go back to CME to make sure, hey, they change stuff sometimes, so it always helps. You've heard us talk about how limits change, stuff like that. And maybe that's a little bit more advanced, but the point is that all the information you need about contract specifications and getting into futures trading, you can get from the source of the CME.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Jack, with the limits changing and stuff. Like all education and anything you're learning about, you need to start at the beginning. When you're learning math, you start with addition and subtraction and move to multiplication, division, that kind of stuff. Get the foundation and then build on from there. There's always things are always changing. Contract specifications will change, limits will change. get the general idea of it and then build from there. It's a fun journey learning this kind of stuff.
And I think it's important really to remember it's the importance of the knowledge of the basics of who uses these products, who are the hedgers, what's our role as individual day traders, what is our role in this, and to understand that I think is a it was one of the foundations of understanding how to be successful at it.
Definitely.
Good point. So that covers sort of the beginning futures place to start. Dan, if you're just trading that cash, Forex trader,
Right?
where
Well,
do you go?
You guys both make a really good point. You have to first understand what the markets are, what they consist of, what makes them up, and who's actually active within them. That stuff you're going to have to, on the FX side, you got to do a little research. Obviously, it's pretty simple to understand. I mean, if you're trading the US dollar versus the Great British Pound, you have an idea of who's using this stuff. You have an idea of what consists of what makes up that product. If you've traveled ever from one country to another, you've gone to the bank or you've gone to the exchange desk to give your US cash for, your Mexican peso, whatever the case is, you've done it. So there's many different places that it's traded. Once you start to figure out and kind of get an idea of what these markets are, there's a simple website. It's Baby Pips. If you've ever traded FX, you've been to Baby Pips. And if you trade futures, you can look at it too, because a lot of what's there is transferable to different products because it's showing basics of trading and execution, things to look for. You're looking at it's describing technical indication and fundamentals of trading. To me, those are things, even if you're going to use technical analysis or not, you have to understand them, getting an idea of them, because at the end of the day, what's moving these markets, what can influence them is so important. So I really do like Baby Pips. They've got really simple, easy to understand education on there. Like Mick was talking about, CME, Baby Pips is the same. Short, simple, easy to understand educational videos. Cannot stress it enough. I really like it. And one thing I do want to say, just on this idea of, new year, new me, whole 9 yards. There's a couple things that I just want to point out. Number one, you have to look ahead at the entire year. Don't think about what this week's going to bring. Don't think about what next week's going to bring, but what's coming this whole year. Obviously, there's going to be a lot unplanned. We saw it in 2020. It's inevitable 2021 is going to bring a lot of unplanned events, but have an idea of a schedule where these, possible planned volatility opportunities are going to be. Manage your expectations going into it, right? We don't come in expecting to be the $1 million trader. If that's an expectation, I can already tell you're probably going to fall flat on your face. And lastly, trade based on what you have and not what you want to have. So if you've got $5,000 in your account, do not trade 10 lots because you want to be a 10 lot trader. You got to build up to it. Don't be that person. Keep building those accounts. Do what Paul is doing. 2 trades in each 2 days to make $17,000.
Yeah.
All right. Off my soapbox there, but that was one I wanted to get across.
Well, yeah. You look at something like Renaissance Technologies or the greatest hedge fund, most exclusive hedge fund on earth. And anyone have a guess? I don't know the exact number, but what is their rate of return over the last 20 years? Something like, let's say 20%. I feel like that's
Right.
high. People don't go into sometimes thinking that like, I'm going to go in here with my capital and I'm going to double it every month and I'll have $500 million by May of 20. That's not the expectation. I mean, prove me wrong.
It happens, great.
Prove me wrong, please. I would enjoy that. And then keep me in mind that I was the one that put a fire under your ass and throw me a couple million.
Yeah, it's a very aspirational thought, but probably not that practical, right? It is a process and it is a marathon, not a sprint. The CME website, great place to learn. Baby Pips, also a great place to learn. I've been through Baby Pips quite a bit, and they really simplify things. They give you lessons. They actually test you on it. You can go through and work on the basics of Forex, all the way through some of the technical analysis. There are also some good websites. Chartschools.com is also a good technical analysis learning tool. Chartschools.com. Just going to show you where I learned it. This was given to me by my father. This is a 1975 edition of Modern Commodity Futures Trading, but it has a lot of the information that you really need to know as far as the contracts. What is a futures contract? Who trades futures contracts? Who are the different time frames? Who's hedging? What's the role of the speculator? That's really a lot of what the CME website has in here. I'm just going to show you. It's Dad's handwriting. I think he stole this from a library and gave this to me. But there's there's also different ways to look at markets. If you've listened to me or you've spent any time in coaching or the group coaching, to me, this is the Bible. There's different ways to view the market's information. The market is always telling us what direction it's attempting to go and how good of a job it's doing getting there. There's lots of good resources. CME Group, Chart Schools for technical analysis, Baby Pips, and the 1975 edition of Modern Commodity Futures Trading. They don't even mention computers in that book.
No, because it was on Gutenberg's press.
You were still having to draw your own charts back then.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And, most clearing firms were probably about 2 weeks behind as far as managing margins were concerned. You could have a position for 2 weeks and your clearing firm wouldn't even know it.
We'll have to have you hold those up, Hogue, like you're Moses coming down. Here it is. There's Hogue's. Perfect.
I have what? 15 10 commandments.
While Hogue's talking about books, and I mentioned the CME Group's website for educational stuff, one of the most valuable foundational books I've ever read and have is the Chicago Board of Trade, CBOT, Handbook of Futures and Options. You can find it on Amazon. It's a little expensive. It's a hardcover. I think it's at least $75, but it's a small investment to make if you're serious about this, and a great read. It really breaks it down in detail, in simple terms. So that's just one other publication to look at too.
Cool. Well, I'm going to toss out one since we've kind of covered the beginning. Futures and Forex I think it's important to develop the right mindset, which goes along with some of the things that Hogue was talking about. So when I started trading at a prop firm, the first day they gave one very technical book on treasury bond basis, which I would not recommend at all starting with, or even just don't. And I can't even say this word, reminiscences of a stock operator. Here's what I'll say is sort of the modernized version. You can read that. It's very old, but it goes into some of the ideas. It's from, before the Depression or like during. Sort of a modernized take would be to read something like Market Wizards, which goes into a lot of the stories and ideas of some of the most successful traders more recently. And I think you can learn a lot by just seeing, even though you would want to trade the way they did now, of seeing the sort of mindset that it takes to be successful. And while you're doing that, also try and avoid the FOMO. I think some people read stories of people that make a killing doing things, and then their only takeaway is, I'm just going to scramble to do that, as opposed to thinking, well, what does it take? And I think that goes into a lot of the discipline and mindset and commitment that it takes to be successful in futures or Forex or whatever you're trading.
And one of the best traders I ever knew, I was a new trader standing in the pit watching this guy, and he seemed to just know where the markets were going to go. He was just so intuitive. And I asked him, I said, how do you make so much money? And he said, Hogue, that's the wrong question. He said, I started out just like everybody. I had no idea what I was doing. I had a badge and I knew I could come in here and I could make a lot of money. But my focus was more on becoming a good trader, learning how to make good trading decisions. And that's what I focused on. I traded every one lot I could until I started to learn to make good trading choices. And as I got better at being intuitive and making good trading choices, the money started coming in. As a matter of fact, he told me he kind of viewed the money he was making as a byproduct of being a good decision maker in trading. So it's more about the process than the outcome.
I like that. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've said it, I think, a billion times. Focus on process, the profits will come. But it's as true as it gets. I mean, you can't come in, and I think it goes back to kind of what I was saying, trade what you have based off of what you have and not so much what you want to have. I mean, eventually you'll get to that point where, I think ultimately there's never going to be that point where like, okay, I'm satisfied with making this much. Like there's always that desire for more. And I couldn't argue, I don't think anyone can argue that. But if you can trade based off of what you have, you'll eventually kind of get to those points where you're building and you can continue to build. And then you can start to scale up and trade a little bigger and adjust what you're doing, but really focusing on what you have, starting there and focusing on the process. And, it's a new year. We're behind one of the strangest years in, well, my entire lifetime.
Mine too.
Maybe we're going to continue to see some strange things happen, and that's going to create opportunity. That's what it's all about. Find those opportunities within crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's really the only guarantee that you have. I think that's a good place to talk about, or just kind of end the conversation there. We're getting started in a new year. Get prepared, get pumped. I'm excited. I was well rested this weekend, getting ready to get back to work. And I don't know, I'm just excited to be doing this with you guys. And we'll be back the whole next 12 weeks. We're going to be doing a trader development theme around. So we're going to try and have a topic that addresses a different sort of pillar you're going to need to be successful in the new year. So we hope you come back and join us. We hope that as we get back on a regular schedule, we'll get some people asking questions. We'll do our best to answer those. And in the meantime, just stay safe, get pumped, do the research. And Hogue, what do we tell them to do?
Trade well.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Hey now, I got my quote.
Oh, P.S.
Yes.
I was about to go real basic with it and say new year, new me. But that's just not going to happen. So I'm going with one from Brad Paisley, country artist. And I really liked what he had to say. Tomorrow is the first blank page of a 365-day book. Write a good one.
I like that.
So now we got like 361 days left, but still, you get the gist.
Yeah, you still got over 98% of the year left. So do what you can with it. And once again, we'll see you next week for another episode of the Coach's Playbook.
Trade well.